Miss Megan Shapiro, thank you for being here. I'm like really excited to talk to you. So thank you for making time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. I'm super excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's been, same. And so sometimes I squirrel and we don't even get to what we want to talk about. So if that happens, that's fine. You might have to come back again. But I think you found me on Vistage, or I found you on Vistage, yeah. Right? You respond. Yeah, so that's cool. I have an interesting feeling about Vistage. We can get into that. But so what I like to do, no, I mean, I think it's great, but I think also charging people $20,000 for friends that you already have is kind of like a little bit sinful. But Anyway, so you're already a speaker. You've got. I think. Do you have a show? You already have a show. Like this is routine for you.
I don't know about. I mean, I'm not you, right? I'm more on the live stream side of things. I don't have an actual quote unquote podcast that I record ahead of time, and my live streams have really. I haven't done nearly as many of them in 25 as I did in 24.
Okay. Well, so what I like to do is just to get you familiarized with the audience to just like tell your builder story. And I want to caveat that I like have opinions about lawyers too. I guess I have too many opinions. I should, but any lawyer that puts shit in their website I'm a fan of immediately. It's like so refreshing. I was like, this girl is like, this is money. So just Megan, take me, is it okay I call you Megan? Absolutely. Or do you have any? Yeah. So take me from the beautiful day that you were born into this world till now, with an emphasis on like how you got wrapped up in this thing we call the trade industry. Take us through your builder journey.
All right. Well, so it was a dark and stormy Monday morning in 1983. No, but I do mention I was born and raised in Missouri, and I mention that because I live and practice in California, people are always really surprised about that fact. So I grew up in Southwest Missouri, went to the University of Missouri for undergrad. I was one of those weird kids who pretty much always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer. I had a brief dalliance with the idea of being a geologist when I was in kindergarten, but pretty quickly after that, I realized I wanted to be a lawyer. And like a lot of kids who grew up in the 90s and 2000s, I was very heavily influenced by Law and Order. I wanted to be Jack McCoy's next ADA because they were always women. And so went to college knowing that my goal was to eventually go to law school. Ended up moving out to California to go to law school. I came out here for law school. I went to the University of the Pacific, McGeorge, which is here in Sacramento. Still with the idea that I was going to do criminal law, but I graduated law school in 2009. And those of us of a certain age remember what the economy was doing in 2009. And so I was working for the Sacramento District Attorney's Office my third year when every district attorney and public defender in the entire state went on hiring freezes. And so I sort of quickly had to pivot and was very fortunate that I remained employed throughout law school and after graduating and taking the bar exam, but I switched to civil litigation. So I was originally working for a solo practitioner who was doing civil litigation, all kinds of civil litigation. He had one construction client, a tile subcontractor, that I did a tiny amount of construction defect work on that file. In the meantime, I wanted to keep up my criminal interests and my trial advocacy skills. So not only did I enroll in an extra degree program after I graduated law school, I got a Master of Laws or an LLM in trial advocacy at Temple in Philadelphia, but I also started doing parole representation hearings. So people who had been released on parole were accused of violating that parole. So they wanted to revoke the parole and put them back in custody. Since there was a loss of liberty at stake, the state at that point in time appointed attorneys to represent them at those revocation hearings. So I was doing that while I was working at doing civil litigation for the solo practitioner. After about 2 years in practice, I got burnt out on criminal defense, went all in on civil lit, and interviewed at the firm I work at now, although it had a different name back then because it's now Rudoslavich Shapiro. I'm the second name. So it had a different name when I interviewed. I was about a second or third year attorney when I got the job here. They had a much bigger construction practice, and the policy at the firm was they sort of passed it down to the new attorneys as sort of like, hey, this is a great place to cut your teeth. I got very lucky because our primary client at the time was a concrete subcontractor, and they had just hired a new general manager within a couple of months of when I started at the firm. So I got handed the caseload. He got handed the caseload. We both looked at each other and said, we don't really know what either one of our predecessors were doing, but this is a great opportunity for us to make this what we want it to be. And I discovered that I have a love for concrete. I got I got to go to World of Concrete in Vegas several years ago, and it was like a pinnacle, a highlight of my career. I can't wait to go back. But so I sort of fell into construction law, and then I love to say that I fell in love with construction law. I went to the partners at the time after about a year of doing that and said, hey, I don't want this to be the thing that gets passed down. I want to own this practice area and I want to build it out. I want to expand it. I want to get more clients. I want to kind of own this thing. And my current partner, the one who's still here, pulled me aside and he said, look, we value you. We think you're a great member of the team. So we're going to support you. We want you to be happy. But I'm just letting you know that some of my other partners do not really respect this area of law. The exact quote was, a monkey can do it. And so he said, like, look, we'll let you do this, but I just want you to know that you're probably limiting your growth opportunities here by wanting to own this because my partners think it's a lazy move, that it's easy and you just don't want to challenge yourself. I sort of chuckled and I said, wow, I mean, like, I really very strongly disagree with that characterization. But I don't care because I love it and I want to keep doing it. And so, I kept doing it, and fast forward 15 years later, and my name is on the wall, and I do almost nothing but construction law at this point, representing primarily the trades, but some owners, some GCs, some design professionals, but my heart still belongs with the trades where it all began.
Man, there's so much. I'm like, that is such a cool story. It's like, that's like the epitome of what people think of the trades. It's like, like that is like the play we get. Historically, I think, I don't know if you share this, but it's swooping back the other way, right? When I went to college, which is about the time you were in law school, it's like, you're going to go run your fence company. And like, I don't know, for all I call them the she builders out there, like they should come and join you at that concrete show. Cause that's so fun to hear. Cause there's so much more to it, right? It sounds like sticks and bricks. And it's like, we're building the damn world. So that's so cool. So I'm a suits educated, non-knowing citizen. I did take in business. We did take like, so I understand, but you fast forwarded a lot of things that I think it'll be good to peel back. So civil versus criminal. Let me try like a trades definition. But so you've got your criminal side of the house, which is like when you break a law, that's like, and then civil is anytime there's a dispute between parties, yes. Correct? More or less. Okay. Yeah. And then you break that down further, and I've never heard this before, but you've got defense and litigation. Is that right? Or what is that categorization? Yeah. So on the civil litigation side, you can really think of it as anytime anybody sues each other, whether that's individuals or businesses, anytime somebody sues somebody else, that's civil litigation. And so within that framework, that all still is part of trial. So just like in the criminal world where there's a prosecutor and then a defense attorney, there is similarly a plaintiff, that's the person who files the lawsuit. And then there's a defendant, that's the person who's being sued. Got it. Okay. And then you fast forward, and so the firm was a different name, and now it has your name. Is that right? Well, that's pretty rad. Part of my name. I still have. So Frank Rudoslavich founded the firm in 1995. When I started, it was a different name. He had a different named partner. It was a different name, and then now it's Rudoslavich Shapiro, and I'm the second name. That's so cool. Congrats. That's for those of us that watch Suits, man, that's like a pretty big ego thing. Like you get your name on that wall. That's like the whole freaking show's about that, eh? Yeah. It was a big accomplishment, especially because I was, I'm the first female partner that the firm has had. And I think I'm not sure exactly if I win or if the other partner won, but I'm one of the youngest as well. Nice. Congratulations. It says a lot about you. And I don't know why I take a chip on my sholdr, because you did it with the trades. Like, yeah, damn right. That's like right. She saw what others didn't. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So then I officiated my buddy's wedding, who was like you. He knew from the day I swear to God, that kid came out of the womb and he's like, I'm going to be a dentist. So like in your childhood, when you decided this, like do you like to argue, or what was it? What makes somebody say, oh, I want to get involved with law? I think nobody's ever asked me that question. So props for the question, first of all. Got one. I got one. Yeah, I had to get one unique one. So consequently, because I've never been asked that question, I've never really thought about it like that before. But if I'm being brutally honest, like if I'm having this conversation with my therapist and I'm being like really raw and vulnerable, probably the truth is the performance aspect of trial work. Because, I don't have any family members who are attorneys. So just like you, although Suits didn't come out until I was already practicing law. So my formative information about what it meant to be a lawyer was also TV and movies, right? A Few Good Men,
The Firm, Law and Order, the LA Law. I'm young enough. I mean, I'm old enough that I still remember LA Law, even though I was little. So it came from all of those TV shows and movies, and all of those focused on the trial aspect, right? Because otherwise the rest of law is boring to watch, at least as an audience member. So all of what Hollywood shows us is the trial work. And so I think, if I'm being brutally honest, what drew me to it was the performance aspect of the trial work. I started doing competitive speech and debate in middle school, did competitive mock trial in high school, did intercollegiate competitive mock trial in college, took my team to win many national awards. So I think it was probably really the performance part of it more than it was necessarily the law part of it, because when you're in high school, you don't know what the law really even. So that's probably what it was.
Yeah. That's awesome. I appreciate your vulnerability. And if you had, I am so curious. This would be for not atomic construction. I got a philosophy podcast in a different land, but I'm so curious, as a competitive, high achieving woman, like, relationships are hard to begin with. Like, you probably intimidate a lot of men all the time. And I would be, but we're going to park that. We're just going to say maybe when we get a beer someday. But so then, this will be, I think, even less comfortable, actually. And I'm going to ask the question, and I think you strike me as somebody that'll speak it how it is. Like, a lot of people go into professions with a glamorous view, and then they get in there and they're like, ew. And so how do you, and I'll speak first, like, I grade the justice system as like maybe one of the world's greatest hypocrisies within its name. Like, they should just call it the injustice system, generally speaking, right? So how do you kind of, what do you do with that? You seem like an ethically upstanding human. Like, how do you describe the industry, if we were to say the global justice system as its entirety, its effectiveness? And you speak your mind. Let me have it. If I'm out of line, that's fine. You can tell me such.
Well, first of all, anybody who's going to describe it as an injustice system probably has some personal experiences that I would never want to diminish, undermine, or take away from. So certainly valid position to take. For me, I will say it is certainly an imperfect system. I don't think you're going to talk to any attorney or judge that's being honest that would disagree that it's an imperfect system. That being said, I think on balance, compared to the other systems that we've identified as humanity, it's one of the better ones. Again, that doesn't mean that it's free from criticism or that there's no room for improvement. I think there's a ton of room for improvement, both on the criminal side and even on the civil litigation side. I will say, I certainly hit a breaking point when I was doing those parole hearings of having to sort of confront and reconcile my own internal morals with the ethical and legal obligations and duties that I had as that kind of attorney, fulfilling that kind of role. So I had to sort of reckon with that early on in my career. I got to sort of live blissfully ignorantly in the land of delusion once I found construction law, because, of course, the system is imperfect. And so the results and outcomes are usually, there's room for imperfections there as well. But on balance, I have been blessed, knock on wood, to feel like overall I've made a positive difference in the lives of my clients and the cases that they've had, which helps. But personally, to your sort of throwaway comment earlier about being a type A, strong, independent woman and the impact that can have on relationships, I am divorced. I'm remarried, but I am divorced as well. And certainly my own personal experience in family law, the family law system is 100% an injustice system. Without a doubt.
There you go.
I can't even name an example. That's a lie. I can name one example, in 15 years of practice, one example in the family law system that I think was the right outcome. One. And it wasn't mine. It wasn't mine.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you went through it. I appreciate that's a great perspective. And I guess I'll speak for myself. When you look around at our institutions, I would say that that's probably the strongest and best remaining, though it is without blemish. So as critical of it as I am, probably need to I need to fall into your camp. On balance, it's good. And in another conversation one day we can talk about could the justice system evolve? It's pretty locked up, but we'll just leave that alone. So let's talk. So I think you're unique for two reasons, if I may, from my lens, my ignorant lens of the world is one, you enjoy construction and you're invested in construction and you built yourself in construction, which is freaking epic. But also, I suspect others are not I would imagine the logical way to get into law would be to follow the money, maybe errantly so, but to get in and be on the big side, right? The big GCs, the big developers, not go support the specialty people that are like struggling to understand what a balance sheet even is, right? Would that be a fair categorization? If I talk to 20 construction lawyers, I suspect that 17, 18 are going to be on I'm going to say the big side. I'm not going to say the bad, but I'm going to say the big side of the house, right? Is that a fair presumption, or am I woefully ignorant?
No, I would definitely not say you're woefully ignorant. I would say there's a bit more nuance to it, though. What I would say, but only a bit. What I would say is, first of all, attorneys who identify as construction attorneys, even though I do identify as a construction attorney, I take issue with most other attorneys who identify as construction attorneys. There's a very good reason for that. But that being said, I think the nuance to your outlook on it is you're just missing one component piece, which I think is actually a blessing that you're missing it, because usually people don't know about this unless they've been directly involved in it, which tells me you probably haven't. So that's a good thing for you. I would say people who identify as construction attorneys usually fall in one of three camps. Yes, the minority is those of us who actually represent the trades, like straight work for the trades. I'm hired by, paid for by, report to the CEO, the GM, the C-suite for the trade contractors. That's one set of us, and we are very few and far between. The other two big sets, you nailed one of them. Yes, they tend to work for owners or GCs, but either way, it's the big dogs, right? But the third one that I think, again, I'm making some assumptions that you don't know what this is because you haven't had to experience it. But I would say this is actually the largest percentage out of those three groups of attorneys who identify as construction attorneys, and they are insurance-appointed defense attorneys. And so what that is every construction company that I know of anyway has to hold insurance. Usually it's a commercial general liability insurance in addition to a bunch of other policies. And if they are on the receiving end of a claim, whether that's a construction defect claim, an injury claim on the work site, workers' comp claim, whatever kind of claim they're on the receiving end of, they then tender that claim to their insurance, just like if you get into a car accident, you tender that claim to your insurance. And if a lawsuit results from it, then your insurance appoints an attorney to represent you. Now, my personal issue with that, and this is an unpopular thing for me to say amongst attorneys, and this is why I don't have a lot of attorney friends. I'll just own that out of the gate.
I think you're better for it, just for the record.
Thank you.
Completely. My audience loves you for it.
Well, I would much rather hang out with my trade clients anyway, all day. So I'd rather be at, like I said, World of Concrete than at one of the lawyer conferences. So I don't regret my life choices, but I am unpopular.
Amen.
I am unpopular as a result. So what happens when that situation arises? It creates what's called the tripartite relationship. And I don't want to bore your audience with explaining this, but I'll just give enough detail so that they can to put some color on it for them. The tripartite relationship refers to the fact that this insurance-appointed defense attorney has two clients. One is the actual client, the trade contractor, but the other is the insurance carrier. And the insurance carrier is the one who hires that attorney, pays that attorney's bills, and is responsible for making decisions on the case. The actual trade contractor does not get to make decisions about how the case is handled. They don't get to decide whether it's settled. They don't get to decide what the defense maybe necessarily is. They don't get to decide how much money is put up to get them out of the case. They don't get to decide whether it goes to trial. The insurance company itself gets to make all of those decisions. Now, the attorney is supposed to represent primarily the interests of the trade contractor, the actual construction client. But at the end of the day, that client is probably not going to independently hire that attorney in the future, but the insurance company will. And so to your point about following the money, if you're an attorney who wants to continue to work in this profession and continue to have cases and work, the insurance carrier is the one who's going to give you that work and give you those cases. And so you can kind of draw your own conclusions about what impact that has on how they handle those cases on behalf of the clients.
Yeah, this is good. And I actually am a victim of this, but it wasn't in a construction suit. It was, and I'm going to put myself on blast here, but we had a petty, and I'm going to say a petty, somebody used the term Julio's, and then we got sued for discrimination. A manager said something, and it was a bad joke. It shouldn't happen. But then, we did the insurance. We had the insurance. But so let's talk. I think this is good because you're bringing it up. But so tripart, you got to spell it for me. I'm a simple tripartite. So TRI. Yeah.
Tight.
How do I spell that?
So it's TRIPARTITE.
TITI. Okay. And so now I'm using your words. On balance, I would think. So let's just take a real example. We like mucked up a tennis court, right? We had our equipment on a tennis court. Whose fault was it? The GC shouldn't have had us on there. We shouldn't have the right equipment, blah, blah, blah. And then they don't want to pay us. We can't do the good dude rule where it's like, okay, that was your bad, that's our bad. Like, we're not going to pay for the whole thing, but we'll pay for part of it, catch up on the next job, which is what 90% of the time should fucking happen. But 90% of the time is not what happens. So we go into our pits of a corner and we're debating, and it's like, so they change order us and we're paying for the whole tennis court because they're not an abundant GC. Walsh, you come to mind. But like, so the that moment happens. We go to court, so we don't get paid. We're on the fritz of going out of business, but we have insurance. So we're like, let's file an insurance claim. My assumption is they're gonna, me and the insurance attorney, me as the trade, we're aligned in the fight. It's always going to be cheaper for them to settle faster than it would be for me to settle. Is that more or less, or where does it become that the insurance company's incentives aren't the same as mine? Walk me through that, because I'm sure it happens.
So
more than that.
Yeah. So first, I want to I apologize, attorney. Okay, can't turn it off. Can't take off that hat. So I want to just pick apart your example just a little bit, because I don't want to leave your listeners with an incorrect impression about what insurance covers. Insurance would actually not cover that claim, because that's a pure payment dispute claim. To just tweak your example,
there you go.
The owner of the property that has the tennis court then gets upset that the tennis court is failing and sues the general contractor, because that's who they're in contract with, because the tennis court is cracking or delaminating or whatever tennis courts do when they're not performing as they should be. The owner sues the general contractor for the defects in the actual installation of the tennis court. Then the general contractor turns around and sues all of the trades that had a hand in constructing the tennis court. The grader, the geotech guy, right? Whatever it is, whoever, all the trades that had a part. Then all of the trades who contributed to the construction of the tennis court would then tender that claim to their insurance. Insurance would then appoint an attorney whose job it would be to argue to everybody else, it's not my guy's fault. Maybe I agree that the tennis court is failing, but it's not my guy's fault that the tennis court is failing. And so, yeah, you're right. With that background, now to get to the heart of your question, you're right. The attorney that is appointed, they are aligned with you. Their goal is to show that it's not your fault and to point the finger at literally anybody else. Or maybe, depending on the actual factual circumstances, maybe they take the position that there's actually nothing wrong with the tennis court. Maybe it's cracking, but the cracks are within acceptable, the acceptable width of a crack for a tennis court, right? Whatever the actual standards are. Maybe that's their argument. But you're right. For the bulk of the case, usually your attorney's interest, the insurance carrier's interest, and your interest as the actual client, they are aligned. It's when they start to diverge that we get into problems. Now, the most common time they diverge is exactly right, what you said. Maybe you're saying, I didn't do anything wrong and I want my day in court because this is my reputation. I don't want to give an inch. This GC is an asshole. This owner is an asshole. This is not my problem, and I want to defend the claims that are being made against me. And the insurance carrier is typing on their computer, looking at their little algorithm, saying it's going to cost 4 times more to go to trial than it would to just settle this thing. And it's our money, not yours. We're settling it out. That's the most common way that the interests diverge. The other way that the interests can diverge is through what's called a conflict of interest, where the same carrier has multiple of those trade contractors. And so they try to appoint just one attorney to represent several of the trade contractors. That's not a problem if your scopes of work don't overlap, if they literally don't touch, right? Like, let's remove the tennis court example. Let's talk about a traditional housing construction of a house, right? You can have one attorney representing the concrete guy and the roofer, as long as the concrete isn't it's not foundational structural issues, right? Or let's take concrete out of it. You have the tile guy and the roofer being represented by the same attorney, because there's no chance that the tile affected the roof or the roof affected the tile. But what is a problem is if you've got the concrete and the tile, and the allegations against the tile are that it's cracking, and the tile guy wants to say, yeah, it is cracking. It's cracking because the foundation is cracking. And the concrete guy wants to say the concrete's fine, the tile's cracking because maybe they used the improper material in between, right? So that becomes a conflict.
Grout.
Or I was thinking thin set, but yeah. Or waterproofing layer, whatever it is, right?
You know your stuff. You got me beat. You know your stuff. There's no doubt about
Well,
that. But okay, keep going.
I have a tile client too. So I've got concrete, I've got tile, I've got waterproofing, I've got framing, I've got all. So I picked up a few things here and there. So then that can become a problem as well. And so then it takes somebody like me. I identify as what's called personal counsel, meaning I'm not paid by any insurance companies. I'm only paid by the companies themselves. And what I will do is I will come in and I will act as co-counsel. So the insurance appointed attorney is doing the heavy lifting so that my client's not paying for the defense that they should have received through the payment of their premiums to the insurance carrier. But I'm babysitting and I'm watching what's going on and I'm stepping in and saying, no, wait a minute. We have a problem if you're going to represent the concrete guy and the tile guy. You can't do that. Right. So that's when it can become a problem.
And in that moment, so it's the homeowner against the GC and the GC against both tile and concrete. And so in my I would almost think it's good that the tile and concrete would unite against the GC, or how does that not? I'm sure it goes bad. Walk me through.
Yeah. So because usually.
Yeah, we're going to lose. So
the trades are always going to lose. Okay. No matter how hard I fight, the trades are always going to lose.
Hey. I have to pause you. Historically, yes. In the future, we're changing that narrative.
Agreed.
I am so set on it.
Agreed.
But carry on.
But for now, as of where we are now, the trades are always going to lose. And part of the challenge is that in my example where the tile is cracking, that's probably genuinely not a GC issue, right? Like that's probably not, they failed to supervise or they didn't do sequencing correctly. It's probably not actually a GC issue, right? It probably is either the grading, the concrete, or the tile. It's probably one of those things that's actually causing the cracking. And so the attorney's job in an ideal world is to represent to the best of their ability the interest of their actual client, right? So if I only have the concrete guy, I'm going to throw the tile guy under the bus. Because I'm going to argue till I'm blue in the face that this is a tile failure, not a concrete failure. Equally, if I've got the tile guy, I'm going to argue till I'm blue in the face. There was nothing wrong with the tile installation. The concrete is cracking. And so, of course, the tile on top of it is going to crack as well. And I can't argue both of those things if both of those people are my clients.
Got it. Okay. This is, I'm going to suck you onto the show more than you think because I have so many. So now we're going back globally law. Like, are you in cases, what drives case success, the truth or the ability to fight? Right. So like, I've got myself in a couple blenders. I'd love to chat. I'd love to tell you that story. But like I always use, and this is probably not good, so you can correct this too, but like, I'm like, I just want OJ Simpson type, defense, because truth is on my side. Like there's no way that I'm going to get burned for this. Like I've done the right thing. Like give me a good attorney, because if I got a good fighter and the truth is on my side, I can't lose. And this is why I have my disposition towards the industry as a whole is like, no, but you can, and you probably will if you didn't like get to the back end of the house. So like if we can skip the part that we're going to talk most about is getting your house in order and setting yourself up, like it's all in the contract, right? Unfortunately, like I'm sure that's where your greatest defense lies. But if we're just in a situation right now, equal and opposite back ends, and like I want to understand is and when you go to trial, what would you weight the truth on your side versus having the right boxer in the ring for yourself? Like, and I understand you can go ahead and critique why the example is something you can't answer, but generally I think you understand what I'm driving at.
I do. But I have a third answer. So
can I guess it? What is the truth? Your truth is different than their truth?
No, but that's also your trial attorney.
Okay.
So no, what I was going to say, so there's a saying amongst lawyers: when the facts are on your side, you pound on the facts. When the law is on your side, you pound on the law. When neither are on your side, you pound on the table. Okay. So my answer is actually not the facts, not the strength of the pounding on the table, i.e. the lawyer. But in construction, in my experience, although you ask 10 construction attorneys, you're probably going to get 10 different answers. But in my experience, the law regarding whatever the nature of the dispute is going to be the biggest determinant as to whether or not you actually win. Not necessarily the facts, because there are many areas of the body of the laws that govern construction disputes. And I'm going beyond defects. I'm also talking about retention, lien laws, scheduling and payment provisions, whatever it is. Oftentimes, there is a body of law that's going to dictate what the outcome will be, regardless of how fair it actually seems. Now, of course, the facts have to fit within what the law is. But at the end of the day, no matter how favorable the facts are to you, if the law doesn't support your position, even in a gut check, this should be the way that it is. If we live in a just society, it might not be. And so I'm going to say that the law is actually the biggest determinant as to whether or not you'll be successful, more than the facts and more than the strength of the attorney that you have.
And that makes sense. Give me the quote one more time, because I heard it in Suits. When the say it one more time.
My confession is that I've seen like 2 episodes of Suits, and that's it. So,
well, my confession is that I know that that show came out in 2008. I just like literally a week ago finished the last, because they just did a new one.
Yeah.
But I just finished, so I've been like kind of watching it passively for the last year.
Okay.
2 years.
Nice.
So I'm behind the times.
Yeah,
but yeah. What's the statement? Because I've heard it before and I can't remember.
When the law is on your side, pound on the law. When the facts are on your side, pound on the facts. When neither are on your side, pound on the table.
Got it.
Now, I may have gotten the order wrong.
Yeah. No, we get
the order, but that's generally the idea.
Okay, let's dive into the meat and potatoes here. And I think your worldview is going to be super helpful and enlightening. You know, a lot like in our trade, it's a lot of, I mean, the guidance I would give to my fellow fencers when they get ready to get into commercial is like, get ready to bend over. Like you're going to get in trouble. Like one way or the other, somebody's going to not pay you. They're going to lord over retention, and retention should just be a profit hold, and it should be abolished immediately. And to all the world, we're coming. Like we're coming. We have the control. We have the labor. Like if we just band together, like we can go wave our fist and like, anyway, so they ought to do it before I get there. Because when I get there, they're not going to like the terms, because it's insane. It is criminal that the little guys fund the fucking job.
Absolutely.
That needs to stop.
And
every owner.
Not to interrupt your rant, because you and I have actually, peek behind the curtain for your listeners. When you and I first met, our very first conversation, we ranted to each other about this. We know we're in a line.
Yeah.
But what I will say, and my LinkedIn post today actually is about this. But in California, we just signed into law SB 61 that caps retention on private projects at 5%.
Good.
So, I mean,
That's
it's
great.
it's not no retention, but it's a hell of a lot better. I've been seeing 20% in contracts lately, which makes me want to jump out the fucking window. So I'll take 5 over 20 because at least it's progress in the right direction. So that applies to all new construction contracts that are signed after January 1st, 2026. So I'm advising people, can't give legal advice. I'm suggesting to people, start looking at those contracts now, especially if you're entering into master service agreements in California that are going to have terms that govern your projects into 26 and beyond. Start redlining now for that 5%.
That's awesome. And we're going to get, oh God, I'm going to park because I'm ADD and I'll forget. So what, like I have a buddy, when I ask him, like I think you're actually taking relatively an inherent risk just being here based on like, I was asking him for like legitimate, like what's 2 + 2? And it's like, well, unless you sign a contract with me, I can't give you math advice. Like, dude, like and so what is that? Cause like what your exposure, if you say that you're I don't know, what is the apprehension to give input? What's your exposure? What's the real exposure? Cause like you're exposed. I think just even being here, you might be, but, and I appreciate you being here, but what is that? What is that all about for us construction folks?
Yeah. So first of all, that is state by state, right? Because the laws that govern attorneys are state specific. That's why I'm only licensed to practice law in California. So one, I have to be conscious about the fact that I don't say anything about other states, right? Because somebody in another state might say, well, Megan said 5% is the cap, and like they're in Montana. And I don't know what the cap is in Montana. I don't practice law in Montana. So that's one. But two, in California, the standard is whether the person on the receiving end, whatever that means, the listener to the podcast, the potential new client who comes into my office and sits across from me in my conference room for an interview to see if they want to hire me, whatever it is, the other person on the other end, if they have a genuine belief they have formed an attorney-client relationship with me, I'm fucked. And so I have to be super explicit that I am not giving legal advice. I am not forming an attorney-client relationship. Talk to an attorney who's licensed to practice law in your state. Everything is factual, it's fact specific, right? So like I can say, generally speaking, these are the lessons I've learned. I can talk about things that I do in practice, things that I do with some of my clients, depending on the wiggle room there. But I have to be really careful that the person, because it's all subjective. It's all about like, if you've got a crazy listener who is like Looney Tunes, but thinks like, wow, Megan's now my lawyer because I listened to that one episode of that podcast. And then they go make a complaint to the state bar, I could get in trouble. Now, probably after the state bar investigated that one, I'd probably be okay. But they could make the complaint and make my life miserable while it was investigated.
And so in practice, you're at risk of giving advice because it give me a live example. I'm not a smart man. So give me like a live example of like, so we're talking, let's say I'm either, I was going to say an idiot. Let's say I'm a less informed and I'm likely to be litigious. So we talk and you say something. Yeah. Just give me an example of something that like, or make up your own example of where you give helpful advice, trying to do the right thing, and then it gets weaponized against you and you end up in trouble. How does that come to be?
So that would be, anything that I said that to anybody who's not actually hired me as their attorney signed an engagement agreement, right? I say something to them, they act on that, fill in the blank, whatever that looks like. It doesn't go their way. And then they contact the California State Bar and say, Megan Shapiro is my attorney and she advised me, blah, blah, blah. And here's all of the bad things that happened. And now that alone will trigger an investigation by the state bar.
Mm. And is that like, each case sets precedent. I have a liminal understanding of that, but is that like, it seems to me, it would be a better world if we had attorneys giving more advice to keep us out. Like, how do we end up in a state where it's like risky for an attorney to give advice relative? Like, why is the burden of proof such that y'all are more at risk helping people? Because it's you're helping people. So like, and so what we end up, or let me play this out. Like what we end up with is like, I got to put you on a retainer to get advice, right? I can't I can't be your friend and call you because you're at risk. Like that to me is preposterous, like as a state of fact. And it is a state of fact. So I think it's a state of fact. How do we come to be, this is the environment with which we operate? Is it just one bad case or a series of bad cases? Or
I'll give you my cynical answer. I'm sure like if you got some representative from the state bar on here, they'd have some politically correct answer that sounded good. My cynical answer is attorneys make the rules. We write the laws, we make the laws, we enforce the laws. And it only makes sense for us to create a system where people have to pay us in order to help. It's cynical. It's cynical.
Yeah, it's because it's true. I take a deep sigh of breath because I'm like, yeah, this is the perpetual like we're perpetually, and I think this is kind of like next level and another conversation, but we're perpetually in a litigious and insurance-based state, where in which it makes it very and I don't want to put like, that's where I'm critical of the justice system is like, we can't break that matrix. It just keeps evolving because the incentives of the law is for more, right? And so it's like, it's literally self-fulfilling prophecy. Like the best thing for law is people to sue each other, right? Yeah. And then like we look around and we wonder why it's this way. And it's like, kind of, if there's not a series of like really introspective lawyers that are like, hey, let's like make a better world that isn't so litigious, like it's almost doomed. I mean, not to be so defeated. Anyway.
No, and that's why, I have this conversation with not all of my clients, but many of my clients. So my personal philosophy as an attorney, to give context to what I'm about to say, I don't like cases. I don't want to have cases. I want to have clients, right? Because to your point, I am all about proactivity. I would much rather give you proactive advice on the front end that costs you $50, but it keeps you out of a lawsuit that's going to cost you $50,000 in 3 years, right? So I'm all about proactive. So I would rather have clients and relationships as opposed to one-off cases. And so when my clients end up with cases, I always say to them, I'm like, I hope I never see you again. Like, let's hang out.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're both at World of Concrete next year, right? Like, see you at LCI Congress in October in Arlington, whatever, right? But like, I hope I never have to be on the receiving end of a call because you need me as your lawyer. Like, let's hang out. Let's be friends. I'll come to one of my clients is a musician. He he's a rock star, basically. I'll go to your shows, but I don't want you to call me on a Monday through Friday because that means you're in trouble. And I don't want you in trouble. And to your point, they're always like, yeah, but like, then you won't have a job. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I can do, like, there are a lot of other things that I can do because if you keep getting these claims, you're not going to have a business anymore.
Yeah. So I'm going to call you the minority and the abundant mind. And it's so refreshing. Like, we got to figure out how we take Megan Shapiro nationwide. Because like, for those that are listening that don't know how hard it is to find a I don't mean to be derogatory towards your profession, but like, it is so refreshing. And the thing that's really hard is discernment, right? Like, I can have a great attorney, but is he for me or is he for himself? And quite honestly, like, to your point, every day, that's a hard decision for them, right? And like, so you've obviously put your name on the wall, like you've done the right thing and you've done it the right way. I have a strong conviction that that was really hard for you, and for many years, probably you were on the losing side of that pole for a really long time. I can very much relate to that. Yeah. Doing the right thing. This is the catastrophe of America right now. I think like I don't mean to, not to be so defeated, but to do it the right way, it's way harder than to do it the easy way. And like, why is it? The right way is less profitable, more difficult, more scrutiny. Like, what is in the world like, it's easier to just manipulate people. I'll digress. You're going to come on the other pod and we're going to talk all things law. And we might even have to put you as an alias so we can get the real truth. But let's just stop there. One question would be, I'm a small contractor trying to find an attorney. The likelihood that I find a you minded, like, are there many of you just hiding, or you're one of 10? I tend to believe it might be less than one of 10 in my experience. And I want to say no disrespect to any attorneys I've worked for. I'm not saying no despair. I've got good ones. I've had weird interactions. Like, I've been through the gamut, but generally this applies to all professions, but particularly I think in the legal system. Like, what would you say are odds of like being able to find somebody that really cares about us before they care about themselves? Because it's so difficult. Yeah. Are we closer to 50%, or are we probably less than 1%? Like, what's the story?
I mean, so first of all, I feel like answering this question makes it feel like I'm just like quietly not patting myself on the back. So that's I feel
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Yeah, I appreciate your humility. I'm doing it though. You deserve every praise on your backing. Let it be true, because it's so refreshing. Okay. So you're a national treasure. I firmly believe that. And but I ask you the question in total hope that you're going to be like, yeah, there's thousands of them. Here's how easy it is to find them. I don't suspect that's what you're going to tell me.
Yeah. So I think with construction attorneys specifically, it's especially hard because of what we talked about earlier, which is, in my experience, most attorneys who self-identify as a construction attorney, most of them are insurance-appointed defense attorneys who mostly do construction defect defense work for the insurance carriers. Not that there's no value in that, but it's much different than being a true construction attorney who is giving proactive advice, helping you negotiate your contracts, trying to keep you out of litigation, dealing with lien issues, dealing with payment terms and disputes, change order dispute, right? Like, defect law is an important body of law, but it's a sliver of the overall body of construction law. So most attorneys who call themselves construction attorneys are that. They're insurance-appointed defense attorneys who do construction defect defense. Or, again, to bring it full circle to the beginning of our conversation, or they work mostly for the owners and the GCs, and then they're probably not going to be able to take you as a client anyway for conflict reasons. And so with construction attorneys specifically, it's hard. It's really, really hard. I have a handful that I would say I would call kindred spirits that approach things the same way. And actually, one of them is primarily is an insurance-appointed construction defect defense attorney, but she's so much more than that. But she's by far the exception and not the rule, right? And so I unfortunately think 1 in 10 might even be generous when it comes to construction attorneys. Having said that, I do feel like I need to defend my profession just a little bit and say, in other bodies of law outside of construction, your odds are much higher to find an attorney who genuinely cares about your best interest, who wants what's best for you, who isn't necessarily going to prioritize their own interests above yours. I think it's a lot easier to find those, and probably the percentage is higher on the good attorney side versus the bad attorney side when we're talking in generalities as attorneys as a whole.
I love your perspective, and I assumed it was probably closer to 1 in 100, but we'll just leave. We won't put so then let me ask this. So like, and I haven't monetized. It's funny that we're talking, like, haven't monetized the podcast because I freaking hate ads. It's like, ads are stupid, and I'm not doing it. And 2, I don't want anybody subscribing to me, because then I'm like corrupted. And so like, I'm over here doing this, but the whole idea is to elevate the voice of the trades, to help the trades. So what I would ask of you is if what it would take for you to help me help us with a 50, we got 50 states, right? Like every state to have a list of people you recommend that might be good option. That would be so helpful for us. So if there's a fee associated, if you can give me a proposal, if that's something you're willing to do, I don't know if there's somebody that you can point me to that would be willing to help us with that. Like if that's, and your name doesn't ever have to be on it. It'll be my name, my recommendation. But if you could help me vet it and I can give it back to the trades, that would be, is that something we could do? Or is that something we're going to trip into a bunch of censors for?
No censors. The struggle is finding them, because believe me, even though I'm only licensed.
That's why I want to do it. Like we'll do the hard work once and for all.
So I'm only licensed to practice law in California, but my side business, my consulting business, I work with trades all over the country. And I've been in the position of like, okay, well, I can't give you legal advice. So let me do this part of it my way, because that's why people come to me. They like my way. They like my philosophy. They like the way I want to do it. So they come to me for that. And then I will then go and say, okay, let me find an attorney who's licensed in your state to double check and make sure that what I'm doing is in compliance with your particular state. And so I am building that. I'm going to date myself. I'm going to call it a Rolodex. That's how old I am. That's how old I am.
I use repository. Yeah. I like repository. That's what I said.
I'm sticking with Rolodex. So I am in the process of creating that sort of clearinghouse list. It's just a slow going process because there are so few of us.
Okay, cool. Well, you might be my first sponsor, or let me know if I can pour gas on that. Because I mean, it's for the people that don't know what we're talking about. Like, man, I pray that you don't have to learn the hard way. But what a freaking struggle! I mean, so many people, and business as hard as it is, and then you get in a bad situation for which you have no control over, and you can lose your business, like freaking like that. And it's like, man, if we could eliminate that, I'll stack hands, whatever. So we'll move on. And I want to make sure at the end of this that we promote what you got going. I think it's awesome, and I hope that this turns into not a charitable hour and a half, but more than sufficient with business. But we'll get to that at the end. I definitely want you to pitch yourself and all that you're doing. So let's just go back to those like, give me and I don't want to fast forward your coursework and everything that you're selling, but like the advice that you give if to somebody, like how do you even, and this will be interesting. So let's say I'm a $3 million shop, I got like 20, let's say 20 people are working for me. And I'm like, hey, I want to get the back end of my house right. Like, where does one start with that? What do you do?
So I really start with actually strategic corporate formation. And by that, what I mean is, a lot of times, as I'm sure you know, a lot of times the trade companies that exist because somebody actually was just really good at that trade. And then they were like, I'm sick of working for somebody else, right? Like I can do this better. I can do this more profitably. I can make more money if I go start my own business doing this thing that I was just really good at doing. And so they don't necessarily have a lot of business knowledge, business know-how, and business experience. And I don't fault them for that. Where are they supposed to get that? And there are no resources for them, right? And so they do what they can. They know they need a business. Maybe sometimes they don't even know that. They know they need a license, a construction license, whatever that is, right? So they get their license. Maybe if we're lucky, they've formed some sort of formal business entity for asset protection purposes, but maybe they didn't. Maybe there's an opportunity for optimization there. They maybe have some insurance, but not ideal insurance. So there's a lot of sort of back end straight business stuff, right? That's not construction specific, although there are construction specific strategies, right? That can inform how those decisions are made. But that's where I would start. I would start with like, okay, what's your business entity and why? Who's your CPA? Let me talk to them so we can make sure that we're making the right tax decisions. Which licenses do you have? Are they sufficient? Do you need more licenses? Do you want to expand? What are your growth strategies? Are we making these decisions based on growth strategies? If you have on your 10-year plan, you want to go from 3 million to 30 million, we need to start looking at holding companies. We need to start looking at subsidiaries. Do you have a fleet? If you have a fleet, is it in a holding company? Do you own the real estate for your business? Like, are you renting your office space or do you own that? There's all sorts of just standard business stuff that I would start with before I ever really moved into like contracts, and the actual sort of day-to-day of what I'm going to call the construction side of it, right? We start with the business side to make sure that the business is set up the way that it needs to be set up. Then we can move into the construction specific stuff.
And then speak to, and I think that's so sage and also, again, unique because I don't think that I would have, I think I could have tried all of my hardest. And if I didn't find you, I wouldn't have found an advisor that's like yoked, I would say, for all of those, right? And that's where I was actually going to, because you got to get the attorney, you got to get the insurance, you got to get the tax. And very rarely are you going to get an advisor that's going to sequence all of those things together, like you just said. So that, I think, am I cataloging? Are we just selling your services here? Is that what you're doing for people? Is helping them with that? Is that a thing that you offer? That's not a thing that you offer.
Yeah, I do. Yes. Okay. I do. I will do that. I have done that. And what I love the most about that though is, like we were talking about earlier, I would love to have a go-to list of attorneys that I can refer people to in states that I'm not licensed to practice in. I equally have a list of those other professionals that I can work with, right? Like I've got a list of go-to CPAs who specialize in construction because it is different. You need a CPA, just like you need an attorney who knows construction, you need a CPA who knows construction. And even more important than a CPA who knows construction, you need an insurance broker who knows construction, knows it, yeah. Right? And I've got that list of like resources that I'm happy, like if you've got somebody that's maybe doesn't necessarily specialize in construction, I can refer you to those people. If you don't have them at all yet, I can refer you to those people. And they're also people that I've got relationships with, so we can work together, right? They know how I work. I know how they work. We can hold hands, collaborate to get our mutual client to the best end result. So yes, it is something that I have done. I do it. It's not one of my primary offerings. You won't find it on my website. But I do it for the right clients who are ready to be intentional about those types of steps.
Okay, cool. That's like really awesome. And I'm like, as I'm ruminating, so Kyle and I are going to build, well, I don't even know if Kyle knows he's going to build this with me, but my co-host, he's like got all things dialed on the project. Like he's like the czar of project management. I haven't established myself as such, but like relationship sales, like if there's somebody in the industry that thinks they can do it better than me, come the fuck on. I dare you to try, right? So I got that side for small business. I get small business, right? That's my thing. And then what I want is that third piece, the back end of the whole, what I call the icky. I freaking hate everything you say it, legal, insurance, even bookkeeping. Like bookkeeping is its whole lot, but it's like, to set up a really good advisory group for all things construction, so you might not know it, but you're going to get an invitation. I might suck you into that. Cause I mean, there's a real opportunity here, I think, to build a community of tradespeople supporting tradespeople, right? Because it's anyway, that shameless plug. It's coming, Megan. You're going to have another invitation. So welcome to my network. Thanks for playing. But let's go. Let me live as the trade profession. I'm in business. I'm hooking and jabbing. I don't have time for whatever Megan just said. And then I get to the point and I have escaped. I haven't been brought to court, but now I'm at the face of working with GCs and I'm exposed. I know that I'm signing these big, hairy contracts. I don't know, like what would be so we skip the back of the house, unfortunately, which many are going to do, because that costed a few $1,000s that we didn't have and we couldn't see the merits of it. And we just made a decision and we're hooking and jabbing. But now we got this 50-page nightmare of a freaking contract that we don't want to read, don't know how to read. And if we did read it, we might just give up. So like, how do we treat that? What do we do there?
Yeah. So now we are squarely in my wheelhouse, and this is going to sound like a sales pitch. So I apologize.
It should. It's needed.
Well, I didn't come on here to pitch anything, so I apologize. Yeah. I teach them how to do this, right? So I do that through one-on-one coaching. I also will do I will do team trainings for companies that have enough people that are responsible for reviewing contracts. Maybe it's like their project managers. Maybe they actually have a contract manager, whatever it is. So I'll do team trainings or I do one-on-one coaching. But either way, I do it through the lens of a proprietary framework that I created called OWN. And so I teach you how to review, redline, and negotiate those contracts like a lawyer so that you don't need somebody like me on retainer. You can do it yourself. You invest in yourself one time to learn the skills so you can do it yourself forever on every contract you have going forward. And the OWN framework teaches you how to optimize, weigh, and negotiate 8 key contractual provisions, because I hear you, a 50-page contract for somebody who doesn't like reading anyway. Even I don't like reading construction contracts. I'm not going to lie. I do it, but I don't like it. It's not like I sit at home casually reading construction contracts for fun. I don't like it either. So I teach you how to make it easy so that it's not this daunting task that you want to avoid forever, right? I distill it down. I show you how you can do it quickly, efficiently, and profitably, and how to do it yourself each time so you don't need to keep coming back. You don't need an expensive recurring monthly subscription fee to some AI tool that purports to be able to do it for you. You can do it yourself, or your team can do it for you. And so there is a systematic approach. It's easy to learn, it's easy to implement, and it takes the struggle, the challenge, and the intimidation factor out of it.
That's so awesome. And then are you set up, and this is a little nosy into your business, but are you like, where I'm going, I want to go into all the groups and all the businesses, and like, I want to be an advocate for better, particularly for the people that employ the labor, the backbone of the freaking industry that gets shafted. So are you set up, like, let's say we have catastrophic success, and I will tell you, this is going to be the first one that I promote, because most of my conversations have just been, leaders talking about leadership, which is, it's cool, but it's not like, I'm not ready to breathe that. Like, I don't want to show up as just a bit of the same, like throwing content to throw content. But this to me is extremely helpful for everybody in small business. And if they're not listening, they should be. As a guy that was like, I signed every contract, and this is my thing. Like, a good dude rule applies. Like, if I at every turn, if I'm acting in good faith, and I will do so until the person on the other side isn't acting in good faith. It's gotten me very far in life, because I don't have time to not trust people, right? Yeah. Until I don't, and then I just exit stage left. I just do. I don't. But I got burnt, and I will say their name. Perrick in Missouri, like, those people are evil, and they completely weaponized the situation, and like, I got totally fucked for doing the right thing, like, absolutely, and I was barely big enough to survive their nightmarish attacks, and I guess I don't condemn. I condemn them wholly and truly, but it's like, they were just doing what they could do, which is leveraging the contract to abuse me. And not do their job, and they won, and they're going to have their day in court with me when I have my following. Like, we'll make them anyway. I'll shut up. It's a pain point, but so I say that, like, my old adage was like, and I got it from my dad. It was like, you got to sign it. You got to sign it. It is what it is. Like, what do you waste a bunch of time redlining and going through it? It's like, it's their contract. So what would you say? Yeah, I see. I now know that's like, we're on the other side now. We're redlining like, I remember like, maybe like a year before that, like, somebody sent us a contract, and we didn't redline it, and they're like, are you sure? It's like, oh, you're like, intentionally, you want me to say no to some things, eh? I was woefully naive, and I'll give myself the pat on the back. I'm smarter than the average Joe in a lot of senses, but that was extremely short-sighted, extremely stupid. And like, unfortunately, as we were talking about earlier, assuming good intent is a bad strategy. Even if you have it, there are other people that don't. And so what is kind of, and I don't want to, well, 2 questions. Speak to generally how we should approach contracts, how much favor can we yield, air quotes, and then my bigger question is, assuming catastrophic success, and we get the eyeballs on this that need it, and let's say we reach 100,000 people, which is a low mark relative to what I want to get to, because I know how many people struggle that are in business having an F of a time, right? So like, that's low. If everybody comes and wants Megan's services, is it set up to scale? Like, can you swallow that? Or are you one woman against the world and don't have a back end? Like, before everybody is excited to work with Megan, I guess, can we overwhelm you? Or are you like, you can put them on the program and it's all set up for that kind of volume?
So what I currently have, because I haven't had that volume yet, is it's me, right? Like, the way I do one-on-one coaching is I do it through StreamYard, which is similar, everybody knows, like Zoom, whatever. And we get together, and you get an hour of my time every 2 weeks, and we spend an hour and we go through it. You ask questions, right? All of those things. So that's what it currently looks like. I am set up to scale. I know what my system would be. I would be transitioning into a group format, so that way I could get more people in, because the lessons are all the same. So my one-on-one coaching, it's rinse and repeat, right? Because the contract provisions don't change. And if they do, I update it. But right now it's rinse and repeat. And so I would do it as a group setting with time, of course, for Q&A. So that people still could get their individual questions answered. So yes, I'm ready for that. I don't have it in place because I haven't needed it, but I know what it would be. I know how to do it. I know how to execute. I'm ready. So that's the answer to that one.
Hey, I can't make you any promises, but eventually I can all but assure you that I'm going to flood that pipeline because people like what you're putting out it's. I wish I had it. I wish I had it. And I'm going to say it again. Shameless plug is like what we're speaking about is so true is how hard it is to find. Nearly impossible, right? So that's why I stand on what I said. I think you're a national treasure, and I'm freaking thrilled that you're on this podcast because I think it's going to be good for it's going to be good for the industry. So anyway, but let's go back to tactical advice. So you got this contract. My old disposition, woefully wrong, is like I got to sign it. So what would be the correct disposition, or what would you say?
Yeah. So first of all, unpopular opinion, but this is a hill I will die on. If a general contractor has a true, we do not accept red lines, and they also use the term trade partner in all of their pretty little marketing, they can fuck all the way off.
We're going to get them. Just so you know, we're going to get them. They're going to be so exposed. I cannot wait. We're going to expose them all, and they're going to have to stop.
Do not sit here and say, oh, we value our trade partners. We're in it together. It's a team. We're collaborative, blah, blah, blah. And then give them a 75-page contract that they can't change a single thing about. Fuck that. And so I say that and start there because if you are on the receiving end of a subcontract from a GC that is saying to you, we literally do not accept any red lines, I will say to you, and I recognize that this is a privileged position to take, but if you are even remotely in a position to not do that work, don't do that work. Because we're never going to change this if people keep signing those contracts. Now, having said that, my caveat is if they really mean it, because a lot of GCs will say it, hoping that you'll just accept it and sign, but they really will actually accept red lines. And in fact, peek behind the curtain, I'm not going to name names. I was recently at a trade conference, and one of this nationwide general contractor was there. One of their general counsel, so one of their in-house attorneys who's responsible for these contract negotiations with their trades, was on a panel. And this person said at this industry event, I always start every conversation by saying we do not accept red lines, and it's not true. I'm just like, if you push back, I'll negotiate.
There you have it.
There you have it, right? So don't walk away from the work unless they've literally said to you, no, seriously, we don't accept red lines. Literally, we don't, right? Try. And there is a lot of nuance and strategy about how you approach that, how to start. In my own framework, not my own, but the own framework that I was talking about earlier, that optimized way and negotiate, we talk about specific strategies for how to get the ball rolling, how to find that low-hanging fruit. That's an easy yes for them. My general feedback on negotiation strategies for red lines is always find the way to make it an easy yes for them. Find a way where the change you're asking for either doesn't actually hurt them, or even better, is mutually beneficial for you. Because here's the truth. A lot of these contracts that you're on these subcontracts that you're on the receiving end of, no attorneys have actually looked at them in probably years. And they're probably the result of an amalgamation of what started out as one draft and then red lines that were accepted over the years. And now it's some Frankenstein that people haven't really looked at recently. And it's probably got some low-hanging fruit in there that is your easy in, because once you get them to accept one red line, even if it's something like I've done it this way. I've had somebody that I've had a contract that had the venue provision, the dispute resolution provision. It required us to go to court if there was a dispute under the contract in a different state than what the project was in. And clearly that was just like they grabbed the wrong contract when they gave it to us, right? Like I don't think they really intended to try to make us litigate in a different state. But I started there because I was like, you don't want to go to this other state either. The project is here. Why would we have to get on a plane to go litigate? And once they accepted one red line, they can't then say we don't accept red lines because you just did. Right? So you put them in the position of having to justify why they want to treat you like a second-class citizen in their contract. Make them say the quiet part out loud about why they won't give you the change you're asking for. It's really fucking uncomfortable for them, and you'll make a lot of headway even though you don't think you will.
So it's another reason for the listener that that you really are a national treasure, but like you understand negotiation and you understand like that's like what you just spoke to is like that was a sales sermon right there. And it's very interesting to see somebody with a legal acumen that understands the art of negotiation and how shit actually works. No offense to anybody that disavows what I just said, but like very rare that you find somebody with a litigious brain that understands how to make shit happen. So kudos, and I applaud. So you said like we're going to do buzzwords here, but like if you find somebody that's rigid, no red line, the correct disposition for us, the specialty is no way. Like no red line, no way. Like we're not doing that job. If that is a hard line. And then I'm going to try something else, and I want to get into what you just said on the negotiation piece, but like I'm going to make a recommendation myself as though I'm some sort of expert that I'm not. But generally, we work so hard, right? So we bid a job in January, and then we get to the table, and we've been following up. And then they say, hey, we're going to write you a contract. In our minds, we go, oh, we've won. Negotiation is over. I literally, until we're talking about this, I didn't realize that I was doing this cognitive defect. What we really should say is, okay, we're at the table and now negotiations have just begun, right? Like we have to retune that. It's like you get a contract. Literally, we do. We start moving mountains. We start getting we're prepping. Like job is a go, but I think inappropriately. Like we need to get ready because that's what they do, right? Is like give me your submittals, order the material. I need to schedule all this, and it's like wait a minute. You've had 6 months to review all of this shit, and now you want to give me 2 days? You want to give me 2 days to like evaluate this nonsense contract that shouldn't exist to begin with? But whatever. So, would you say that's accurate? Is like the day you get a contract is the day negotiations start, not finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway nugget here, because I'm all about actionable strategies, right? Like I don't like fluff, right? I'm all about actionable strategies. I think biggest actionable strategy in this part of the conversation is a mindset shift for the trades. Because here's the thing, you're absolutely right. The GC has been sitting on this forever, right? They've had months and months and months. They put out the RFP, they reviewed the bids, they finally selected their trades that they want to use for the project. They took their sweet time getting the subcontracts together to send out to the trades. And now all of a sudden, the urgency is on your side. No, it's not. Because what if you say no? What does that do to the GC? They picked you for a reason. That means probably you had the lowest bid or you have the best reputation. Whatever it is, they picked you for a reason, which means if it's not you, they're getting second best for their own second best. For whatever their criteria was. It's their own second best. So they are necessarily inherently incentivized to make it work with you. You have the power. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to think that. They're going to create a system to make you feel like you are indebted to them. That they think, God, you've chosen me. Thank you so much for selecting me. How can I bend over backwards to get submittals to you, to order materials, to get this project going so we can meet our completion deadline so you can look good to the owner? Let's do this. We're a trade contractor partner. It's all fucked up bullshit. That's all designed to make you sign without reading, to sign without negotiating. It's a mindset shift for the trade contractor. In this moment, right here, you have the power. Use the power wisely. Be strategic about your red lines and how you negotiate them, and take the time that you need. Now, don't take a month, right? But you don't have to sign the contract and turn it around in 24 hours. You don't. And if you don't, and if they say that you really do and they mean it, again, ask yourself, if they really need that contract signed in only 24 hours, what are they going to do if you don't sign at all? Because now they have to go find somebody else. Even if it's somebody that already bid it, hopefully that guy still has availability because he knew he didn't get the job in the first place. So maybe he took a different job. Hopefully he still got availability. And then they've got to go into the negotiation with him too. So they're not getting that done in 24 hours with him either. You have the power.
Yeah. And for the skeptic that's like me, because we're small, right? We're like one, maybe 5% of the project. We come in last, so we're the last awarded, and they don't care about us. And likely when they're issuing contract, they're saying something to the tune of like, you're one of three, one or two. And they have somebody readily on standby. So we do, I call it the critical window, right? When it's time, when they're getting ready to award, right? It's, we're vulnerable insofar as like, there's not somebody I would say we do have the power. We don't know how much power we have, and we tend to not weaponize our power. So the one thing I would say to kind of the skeptic listening to you is like, you got to set those conditions. Because then like, when you're following up and they're trying to issue a contract in a month, then you get to say, hey, look, like I need a week for contract review. I need a week for submittals. So if you want me out here, you start to front load their schedule, and then you're setting conditions. So then if they whack you with it, it's like, hey, I told you, like, this is not how we do business. Like, and you get to say like things like, is this how you're going to run the whole project? Right? Is everything going to be last minute? Because then you're going to cost me mobs. And in your head, you should be thinking, because it is, I think the way they contract you is probably very indicative, not always, of how they're going to run the job. Right. And so if it's a shit show to get a contract, then it's a nightmare to get submittals, and they want materials ordered, expect that job to be problematic. So your price can and should go up. And if you do it with the right professional acumen, and you're like setting conditions through follow-up, forward thinking, and this really goes to my fencers, the landscapers, the lonely outsiders, the pavers, the smallies, is like, you get to demonstrate that you're a professional and you get to drive them. And frankly, part of our job is managing the GC. If you guys, if anybody's listening and they haven't learned that, is like, hear me clearly. They're not going to manage you profitably for you. I promise you that. So anyway, I appreciate what you're saying. We've only got 20 minutes left, and I think this is really awesome. So thank you for being here. It's really, really special. But I want to go into kind of your negotiation tactics. So were you saying find one win and then go get some more? Or like, I'm kind of a guy, like, when there's a right. So let's say that there's 6 problems on a job. I want to bring all of them up and then give them the easy win within that construct. So I'm not somebody that wants, like, if I'm on the receiving end of a contract negotiation and you like make me redline once that I don't want to do, and then you make me and you keep nicking at me, then you're going to piss me off. So like my tendency would be to highlight that first one, to get them off the mountain while soliciting for all the other things I want. But I could be showing my cards a little bit there, because then they're like, well, if we give to this, we got to give to that. So, or would you be saying, start with something easy and then bring them the list? Or, I mean, I guess it's case by case, person by person, but what would your counsel, or not counsel, what would your suggestive recommendation be? Yeah. Thank you.
My position is, so what I was saying earlier was limited to the GC that's saying to you, we don't accept red lines. So if you have a GC that's saying we don't accept red lines, then I would say take that really easy win to get them to concede that they will in fact take red lines. And then, then you do the whole thing. You go through the whole contract, do all of your red lines, and that's the very next thing that you give back to them. It's not piecemeal. You're right. That's going to annoy the shit out of anybody. And it's also a waste of time, everybody's time. It's a waste of your time to do it that way too, right? But if they have that hardline stance, you don't want to waste your time redlining an entire contract if they really mean it. So that's why it's like, find that one easy one to test it, to see, are you really going to be one that's going to not accept any red lines? And then I've got a business decision to make. Am I going to take this job or not? Or, okay, they've taken this one. Now I know I can redline the rest of the contract and give it to them all at once. So that's for the GC that has this policy, right? If you don't have a GC that's saying that, and you have a GC that's just like, yeah, here's the subcontract, take your time, take a look at it. Let me know if you've got questions or you want to chat about it, however they say it, right? Then what I do is I redline the whole thing. And then from there, that's when it gets nuanced and depends a little bit, right? So sometimes you'll have a GC PM that says, okay, yeah, let's jump on a call and go through these together. Sometimes you've got one that says, okay, thanks, I'll review them and I'll get back to you. And then we've got the never-ending back and forth of comments on the Word document or Bluebeam comments or whatever it is, right? So then your strategy is kind of dictated by what the back and forth looks like, what the volley is. But in every case, I always try to find some way to couch every requested red line as advantageous or at least not harmful to them. And for my process, I use a 3-colored flag system that's part of the way part of the OWN framework. Red, yellow, and orange. And red flags are literally like, we might walk away from this project if you won't give on this one. Yellow flags they'd be nice to have, but it's okay if you can't get them. And yellow flags, in my opinion, are some of the most valuable tools you have for negotiating, because that's when you can really get strategic about how you do your pitch, right? So maybe you have some yellow flags on there. So yellow flags are the most important from a negotiation standpoint, because I will sometimes put a yellow flag red line. Again, it would be a nice to have. Like, I'd like it if I could get it, but I really don't care one way or another. I'll pair that with something I really want. That would be maybe like an orange flag type of situation. Orange flags this one's a pretty big deal, but if I don't get it, any one orange flag alone isn't enough to walk away. But if there are several orange flags within one contract, maybe that equates to one red flag and we might be considering walking away from this one. So maybe I'll pair an orange flag with a yellow flag so that I'm baking in my ability to give and take, right? So I ask for these two together. And when they push back, I say, okay, fine, you're right. You know what? Give me the orange and I'll let you have the yellow. And obviously you're not, by the way, just to be super clear, you're not calling them that. You're not using those colored systems when you're having the conversation with them, right? Those are your internal notes. But you might say to them, I really need this change. And so I'm willing to concede this other one that I asked for at the same time. And so that's why the yellow flag, red lines can actually be the most advantageous from a negotiation strategy standpoint.
Man, so good. It's like an OW. What did you call it? The framework?
OWN. Own
and that's yours.
Own those contracts.
Yeah, that's yours. That's really awesome. I think there's so much more that I want to dive into with you, but we're going to run out of time. And I do a standard exit. They call it lightning round. The cool kids do, but for leaders, no, it's easy. Well, it's not. But I want to make time for that, and I don't want to skip promotion. Like, I think it's awesome. I think like if you're willing to come back, I would love to have you back. If you're willing to build this community with you, I think like you're going to offer me a really good in to do that, because what you have is what a lot of people need. And I think we're going to bring you volume, but why don't you one time just do a shamelessly plug yourself fully and totally, what you're doing, how to find you, and please talk to your clients for a minute, because I think I'm going to put you in front of them. I don't know this, but I have a strong sense that that's what's going to happen.
Well, thank you. So primarily you can find me at meganshapiro.com. That's sort of my landing page clearinghouse for all things that I do. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. I'm at Construction Contract Coach on LinkedIn. I post almost daily, and I also have a weekly newsletter that goes out, again, with a focus and emphasis on actionable strategies. I don't like fluff. I try to include an actionable strategy in every post that I make. So you can find all the things all my offers, all the things that I do on meganshapiro.com. But I also do have constructioncontractcoach.com. That's where you can find more information about the one-on-one coaching or the in-person team trainings for contract review. And I wasn't being covertly sneaky and trying to keep anything behind a paywall, quote unquote paywall, on this podcast. If you want to know what those eight key contractual provisions are that you should be focusing on, they're on my website. They're there to see. We just didn't have time for me to get into what they are, but it's all there, right? Obviously, there's nuance that you get when you engage me, but it's all there. I'm a big proponent of like, give you the tools, right? So you can find all of that stuff on constructioncontractcoach.com. I also have a lot of freebies that you can find links for there. I have a guide that walks you through the OWN framework and the yellow flag system. It's a free guide. You just have to sign up with your email address, which also gets you on the newsletter email. That's on constructioncontractcoach.com. On the leadership note, I also do have some leadership at doitlikealawyer.com. But that is exclusively focused for women in male-dominated industries. And I sort of help them take their seat at the table, find their place in the room where all women belong in decision-making situations, and find their voice in difficult conversations and negotiations. So you can find that. I'm actually going to give a shout out to the American Subcontractors Association. I'm actually going to the Arizona chapter of the American Subcontractors Association. They have a subcommittee called Build Her Up, which is like their Women in Construction subcommittee. And I'm actually going to be out there on next week, doing my Make Your Voice Heard workshop to help women leaders find their voice in difficult conversations.
It's so good.
And then my last one, which I don't even think you know about, Kevin. This is actually the one I'm the most excited to talk about, because I'd love to invite you to join us. 2 years.
I'm in. I'm already in. I don't know what it is.
I'll sign you up now.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I founded a construction conference called Converge. So we have the Converge Construction Summit. I don't know when this is going to release, but this last week we're recording on August 18th. This last week, I just did a week-long teaser campaign to announce where Converge 2026 is going to be. So we're going to be in Chicago in June of 2026.
That's where my business is. That's where I'm from. Come on. Whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Awesome. I'd love to have you join us.
Yeah.
But it's an industry conference that really puts the emphasis on the relationship aspect of working together to form collaborations and relationships to improve the industry from the inside out. So it caters to service providers like myself to the industry, as well as obviously people more like you, Kevin, who are actually boots on the ground, doing the damn thing, building the world that we live in. And so it's grown year over year. We're going to be our third annual in Chicago. I've got sponsorship opportunities, but it's a great place to come, meet people, strengthen those connections and relationships, form collaborations. Everybody that came last year got work out, except one, got work out of the conference, having as a result of forming connections with people either through referrals or they created separate side ventures together because they found that there was a synergy between their offers. It's just a really feel good time. Everybody who came the first year came back the second year, again, with the exception of one, and that was only because she had a scheduling conflict. So it's a great time. It's a great place. You can find more information about that at convergeconstructionsummit.com. And again, both Construction Contract Coach, Do It Like a Lawyer, and Converge Construction Summit. You can find all of those through meganshapiro.com as well.
Do you use sleep? What do you do for fun? I mean, I got to push back my next call because now I have so much.
I start new businesses apparently and buy more website domains. People are always like, why do you have all of them on different domains? And I'm like, because I'm a domain junkie. I don't know. I don't have a good answer.
Good. That's awesome. Super cool. I think there's a convergence of what you're doing with Converge and what I'm trying to do in this community. So if you're open to it, I'd love to stack hands. If not, we'll just support Converge. It's so necessary. It sounds awesome. It's funny you bring up the ASA because that's not how we connected. But my last guest, I brought him on to talk about the ASA and what the ASA could or should be doing about this. And we never got to it because it was just, he's a fascinating guy. It was awesome. But look, that's awesome. Everything you're up to is awesome. The one thing I want to just say is like, it sounds like a multitude. Man, the females in construction, I think it's like the golf course, the last place where it's like freaking misogyny is still allowed. I get so fucking pissed off when like the guys are disrespectful to my women and I get on and ask the same question and they answer. I condemn that. It's so bad. It's a tendency that we gotta deal with that because it's real. I'm not pro-feminist by any means. I'm like, I think y'all are smarter. You guys are the better of the two. I would say that. And I don't care who gets mad at me about it. Like, just look at what happens to a man when he gets sick and all of what a woman has to do. Like that's the demonstration is all. But anyway, I think, I'm going to be starting. We're doing a merch line and it'll be really cool. We're going to do a she builder and it'd be cool to have you advocate for that. But just a woman of many, many facets. Talk to your, like the person you want to speak to, like the ideal client, the work you love, the main beneficiary of you. Who are we? Who are we talking to?
I really think it's both women in male dominated industries and the trades, because I think the through line is most of the time we tend to be the underdogs in whatever that looks like, right? So the trades, of course, we all know why they're the underdogs. And we've spent the last hour and a half talking about why the trades are the underdogs in our industry, despite the fact that without the trades, there would be no industry, but we pretend that that's not the case, right? And we treat them like dog shit. Equally,
well said.
Yeah, right. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like I'm a straight shooter, Kevin. I'm not for everybody.
I love it.
But equally, I think the same is true for women, right? A lot of times people don't realize this, but law still is a very male-dominated industry as well, particularly construction law. That's why I identify as a woman in two male-dominated industries, right? And so I think from my own perspective, the challenges that women in these industries face mirrors so closely the challenges faced by the trades when they're trying to deal with the industry as a whole, right? It's this uphill fight for respect, for the opportunity to be treated like an equal partner, for the opportunity to be heard, for the opportunity to have input. And so that's what I'm trying to address on both fronts, whether that's through helping the trades leverage their contracts to make them more profitable for them, or it's helping women find their voice to take back the power and join the decision makers at the table where they should be anyway. I think the through line is helping those underdogs get to the top.
It's the whole basis of my brand that I wish I didn't have to create, but I'm coming. So you spoke it well. That's awesome. I'm going to hit you. I was going to ask, like, so do you like leadership? So like you've demonstrated that you're a leader by right all the way through, but like, do you have a team underneath you? When you think, like, obviously you're leading your clients, but you're clearly a leader, but in an unconventional sense, right? In my world. And like, unless you got a team of paralegals or like, how do you identify yourself as a leader? Because everything I'm going to ask you is about leadership, but I think it'd be good to how does that work for you?
Yeah. So I have a team. So I went like this because I'm in my law firm office right now. In addition to my partner, who I've already talked about, we also have 5 other attorneys, a paralegal, legal assistant, various support staff, a controller. So I have a whole team. I do not do it alone. I do not purport to be able to do it alone. I purport to hopefully lead them, train them, guide them, get them to do things the way I think they should be done because I'm a control freak as well. But I do have a team. Yeah.
Got it. And then for all your other ventures, is that you against the world, or you got a VA that helps you, or how do you that's like, I've got a few of my own and it's dizzying. So do you do that? Are you at the forefront of all of that?
Yeah. So it is sort of, it's a little bit me against the world in terms of like doing it all, but I do have a business coach. And I also have an amazing, super supportive, wonderful network of sort of LinkedIn connections that are all on this sort of construction entrepreneurship journey at the same time, or maybe a little ahead of me, but we've all invested in each other. And so there are this sort of like covert board of advisors. All of them are at Converge, by the way. So if you want in on that, not just you, Kevin, but all of your listeners, if you want in on those amazing people, all of them many of them come to Converge. And so I have a great network of support that I can go to for feedback, advice, input, guidance, things like that. But yeah, as far as who's actually doing the damn thing, it's just me.
But okay, so definition. How do you define good leadership? It's like this. How does leadership defined by Megan?
Ooh, I would say the hallmark of a good leader is somebody who listens, but actually listens, not just listens to their team for the sake of being able to say, I listen, right? Like, oh, I have an open door policy. No, I mean, listen, implement, execute to the extent possible, right? Like you can't take every bit of feedback and change your business every time somebody has a different opinion. But if you start to find common threads and you really are truly listening to your people, you can help co-create the environment and the job, the situation, the business, whatever it is. You can co-create with them to really have something that is something they want to be a part of, a true team and a culture that makes them want to stick around.
Got it. Love it. When you think of obviously listening, but when you think of the key trait or traits that make up a good leader, what adjectives come to mind?
Visionary. I mean, that's no surprise. I'm sure everybody gives you that answer. It's probably in the top 5 anyway.
You're the first. You're actually the first.
Wow, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think like no matter how big or small a team is, you have to have one person at the helm who knows what the long-term vision is, right? There are some leaders who are very reactionary, who are very fly by the seat of their pants and respond to the fires as they arise. And they might be really excellent at doing that, no shade. But I think in order to grow and progress and continue to move forward, you have to have one person who has the end goal, or maybe not the end, but has a future goal in mind of where the plan is and where we're headed. So that way we can make steps to get there. And then maybe the second in command is the one who can be maybe reactionary and is excellent at that. But I think without one component of a leadership team that is visionary, you're going to stagnate.
Are you on EOS?
I am not on the EOS system. I read the book. Obviously, I read Traction. I'm familiar with it. We don't do it here. No.
Have you read Rocket Fuel?
Yes.
Yeah, that's gold. All right. Favorite part of the construction industry?
The people. We skipped over this part of my story because it didn't fit in naturally to the overall arc. But I actually married into the industry too. I married one of my clients.
Nice.
Yeah. So after my divorce, one of my trade clients had a hybrid project manager superintendent at the time who was also somewhat recently divorced. And my client actually sort of set us up. And we went on one date and ended up getting married on the anniversary of our first date because it was like game over from that very first date. And so my husband he's now an MEP superintendent for one of the nationwide general contractors. He switched sides this last year. I know.
We lost a good one.
I know.
It's
been a rough transition for me. I'm like, he'll tell me stories and I'm just like, I have no sympathy for you. Oh, it must be so hard being the GC, right? Like I know it's not great, but no. So now he's an MEP superintendent on the GC side, but for the bulk of his career, he was HVAC and both project manager and superintendent. And so obviously love him. And so it's the people. It's always about the people for me, whether that's the owners, the C-suite, or the actual, boots on the ground guys in the field. It's always about the people for me.
And is it? What's the lucky man's name? Can we highlight him, or would you rather not?
No, we can. Jeremy Vickers.
Jeremy
Shapiro.
Jeremy Vickers.
Yeah. So Shapiro.
You're a lucky man, Jeremy. You're a very lucky man, and he's probably insanely secure with himself. I suspect that he's a very incredible human. So Jeremy, I'm already a fan, bro.
Yes, he is. In fact, he came to one of my trainings. So his client brought me in to do one of these contract trainings with the whole team. And it was like love at first sight for him in the back of the room. He was already like talking to his buddies and he was like, I'm gonna date that one. I'm gonna date that one. It took about a year, but yeah. So he's very secure. He is very supportive. Yes.
That's freaking awesome. I suspect I might have an idea. What would you change about the industry if you could?
Oh my God. How much longer do we have, Kevin? What would I change about I guess, if I had to just sort of come up with like a sound bite of what I would change, I would change the mindset of everybody in the industry to truly recognize what trade partner means and act accordingly. Because if you actually treat people like a trade partner, everything else falls in place. Because you can't genuinely view somebody as a trade partner and treat them the way that the trades are treated most of the time.
Amen.
Most of the time.
So well said. We're coming. We're going to breathe that into life. I have a speaking of visionary, I have a plan. What makes probably many things? What makes Megan unique? What's top of mind? The first thing that makes you uniquely you.
I'm going to say my passion. I don't know. I'm sure you probably could hear it through some of the more passionate parts of our conversation, but I get pretty loud. I get pretty animated. I am extremely, extremely passionate about the things that I care about. And I think particularly when it comes to construction law, that's pretty unique. Most people don't get super passionate about contract provisions or making sure that the trades are having a lower retention rate. It's not really a thing most people get all worked up about, but I do.
On behalf of the little guys, we're happy you exist. Thank you for your passion of us. Top books. What are your big reads?
We already talked about some of them. Another big one recently is Let Them by Mel Robbins. That's actually, I give that one away at my workshop for women in male-dominated industries. So that's a good one. Let me think. I've been on a little bit of a fiction kick because, to your point, when do I sleep? What hobbies do I have? I do have to sort of feed the not always consuming self-help business related stuff. So I've been on a little bit of a fiction kick lately. So probably not interesting to your viewers or listeners, but I would say Let Them is probably the best one that I've read lately. Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima is another one I've read recently.
Give me your favorite fiction. I want to know your favorite. I've been trying to dabble with fiction. I have a hard. I literally just started watching The Matrix because I'm like, I'm always nonfiction. Oh. What's your favorite fiction?
So I have an author that I really like right now. Her name is Ruth Ware, Ware. And she's a little bit of like a mystery writer, and there's one that I have not been able to get into for whatever reason, but all of the rest of her books are like those kind where it's like you never stop, right? It's like you start and you better start in the morning because you can't put it down. I do a lot of audibles, and she always works with the same voice actress who does the readings for all of her books. And she's British, so it's got that sort of soothing, but she also does different voices for the different characters in the book. Easy to follow. So anything by Ruth Ware is a winner in my book. I just binged, this is such a random one. I just binged My Best Friend's Exorcism, which was a little bit of a funny, set in the 80s. So it was very nostalgic, but it's Grady Hendrix is the author of that one, but it was a good time too.
Okay. You can pick one or you can answer them all. I'm going to go through 4 or 5 questions here. So your favorite famous person, least favorite famous person. We don't have time for it, so I'll bring you on for your toughest season of life. I'd love to hear that if you're willing to share. But if you could be the proverbial God for a day, not resource confined, and you could change anything in the world, what would you change?
Oh my gosh. If I could change anything in the world? I think if I would change anything in the world, in this common theme here in this whole conversation, I would get true equality. I would have true equality, whether that's men and women, whether that's GCs and trades, whether that's races, nationalities, different countries, whatever that is. I would just say, let's all treat humans like humans, and let's treat all humans the same.
I have so much. You might have to come to my other podcast. Yeah, there's equality is an interesting word, but I think we're very kindred spirits. The wealth gap demonstrates the pervasivity of whatever the hell's going on. But that's another conversation for another day. What about your famous people? Who do you love? Who do you hate? Who are you going to dime out that people know?
Gosh. I'm gonna politely not answer the who I wouldn't. How did you phrase it? Hate, but what was the
least favorite?
Yeah.
What if I said this and you don't have to answer? I'll let you go. But the voices we need less of. Who comes to mind when you think voices that we need less of? Because hate's not a good word. But you can skip it.
I'll just say politicians as a whole. We need less voices.
That's your 2 in a row. 2 in a row. That was the last one. What about your favorite?
Gosh, I have so many favorites, and they're not, but you said famous, right? It's
just that people household names, right? Like
gosh.
Or maybe if I ask it this way, people that we need more that should be speaking louder, or we need more of them, or more like them. We need more of this in the public sphere.
Well, this is sounds like a cop-out, but I think what we need more of in the public sphere is people that aren't already famous.
Ego kill. You're gonna have to come on. You're gonna have to come on better. Yeah, not famous people. That's the best answer by far and wide. I choose Denzel. I think Denzel Washington and Keanu Reeves are just amazing humans.
I love Keanu. Yes.